Welcome to Live Interactive English. I'm Matt.
And I'm Karen. So today we're looking at part 2 of some history and facts surrounding sign language. I know you know quite a lot about sign language because of your grandparents. Can you tell us some interesting facts about them, or how they communicate? How do they fight?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, do you know how deaf people clap when they want to show their appreciation?
Clap? Isn't it just like this? That should be the same, right?
But if you're speaking to a large audience, you can't really see this. Or certainly deaf people can't hear it, so they do this.
Oh, really? So they shake their hands, kind of,
That's right, so you can see the clapping.
So this is clapping. Okay, but I have a question. How do they fight?
How do they fight? It's really just more aggressive signing, so it gets louder. You can more hear the hands hitting as they're signing.
Cool. Okay, so that means kind of like you're yelling at somebody, right?
Yes.
Oh, how interesting. But how about answering phone calls?
Okay, so for a home phone, usually they'll have a special thing attached to the phone that makes the lights in the house blink so that they know the phone is ringing, or also a different light maybe for the doorbell.
Okay, because some people ring the doorbell, it would be hard for them to hear, right?
That's right.
Okay, thank you for sharing. There's a lot of interesting things that we can learn about because I haven't really encountered many deaf people, but thank you for sharing. Okay, well, let's learn more about sign language.
There is no universal sign language. In the same way as there are many spoken languages across the world, sign language differs from country to country. This is because many sign languages were developed by local deaf communities. Therefore, each sign language followed its own path of development, though some share similar features. American versus British. Although Americans and Brits can easily communicate using the English language, this is not the case with sign language. In fact, ASL shares more similarities with French Sign Language than it does with British Sign Language, BSL, and ASL signers may not understand BSL at all.
Hello everyone, today we're talking about Part 2 of some history and facts surrounding sign language.
So we'll be learning more interesting facts about sign language. So let's dive into it. There is no universal sign language, and that brings us to the first vocabulary word, universal, and that is an adjective. So when you say something is universal, that means it's done or experienced by everyone. So when they said the sign language is not universal, that means maybe every region, every country's sign language will be different, right? So for example, many people in America are pushing for universal health care. So they all want health care for everyone. They want everyone to have access to health care.
And that helps everyone. So
That's right.
Let's continue with the article. In the same way as there are many spoken languages across the world, sign language differs from country to country. This is because many sign languages were developed by local deaf communities.
Okay, now I can understand why they will be different from place to place because they have different communities that come up with them, right?
Right.
Of course, they will be different. Then that means they won't be able to communicate with each other, right?
Yeah, I think that because it's not a universal language, I think even people from different countries, even though we think of sign language as one language, it's really many different languages.
Exactly, just like spoken languages, right? Therefore, each sign language followed its own path of development, though some share similar features.
Okay, in there we mentioned the deaf communities, and that's our next vocabulary word, which is community. Community is a noun, and it means a group of people with a shared interest or shared attitude or something that they share in common. So in that case, what they share is that they are deaf. So it's a deaf community. The example sentence, much of the scientific community is in agreement that climate change is the greatest threat to human existence.
And I think that's definitely true, right?
So.
Okay, American versus British. Although Americans and Brits can easily communicate using the English language, this is not the case with sign language. Wow, I didn't know that because I thought, British and, like America, they share, when we speak, it's basically using the same language. But sign language, I guess it's not the case.
I also didn't know that. I always knew it was called American Sign Language, which is what my grandparents used, but I didn't know that they couldn't communicate with other deaf communities who also write and read in English.
Exactly.
In fact, ASL shares more similarities with French Sign Language than it does with British Sign Language, BSL. And ASL signers may not understand BSL at all.
And that is very, very interesting. They have more similarities with French Sign Language than the British, right?
Okay.
I wonder why. And similarity is our next vocabulary word, and that is a noun. When you say they have similarities, that means they have some parts or qualities that are alike. So for example, there are many similarities between the two brothers. So these two brothers are probably not completely the same, but they share some similarities. Perhaps they all have dark brown hair and they're both very tall and they have big eyes. So these are some similarities, right?
That's right.
Okay, well, how about let's take a short break and we'll be right back to learn more about sign language. Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。我们今天要来看几个跟手语有关的事实。第一个是没有通用的手语，就像世界上有许多口语一样，各国的手语也有所不同。这是因为许多手语是由当地听障群体所发展出来的。那么单字 universal 它是形容全体的、普遍的或是全世界的。那么 community 它可以表达群体，可能像是由共同利益啊、宗教啊、种族等等构成的这种群体、团体或者是界的那种意思。好，那第二个事实就是说，虽然美国人和英国人可以轻松的用英语沟通，可是手语就不是这样咯。事实上啊，美法的手语呢，比美英的手语有更多的相似处，而使用美国手语的人可能会完全不懂英国手语哦。好 ，similar 这个形容词可以形容相似的，那我们这边用到 similarity， 它可以表达相似处、相似的地方，是当可数名词。这个单字也可以当不可数名词来表达类似、相像的意思。这边两个重点，我们进入文法时间。好，第一个重点来看 ，in the same way as 是指说像什么什么一样。这个 as 可以当做连接词，后面是接子句，也可以当做介系词，那后面就是接名词喽。举例来说 ，The new system works in the same way as the old one。新的系统运作方式跟旧的一样。Children do not see the world in the same way as adults do。小孩看待世界的方式和大人是不一样的。第二个重点是 differ from 名词 to 名词，这是表达从什么到什么都不同，因什么什么而异。那其中的 differ 是不及物动词，来表达不同、相异。那这个名词是要用单数型哦，这要特别注意。像我们说 from country to country 就是因国家而异 ，from culture to culture 因文化而异等等。例如 table manners differ from culture to culture。餐桌礼仪因文化而异。好，接回到课文中。
An eyebrow-raising fact. We tend to think of sign language as consisting of mostly hand motions, but the expression on one's face plays a key role too. In ASL, for example, eyebrow position can determine the type of question being asked. Raised eyebrows signal a yes-no question, while eyebrows that are kept down signal a WH question. In this sense, an incorrect eyebrow position can be considered poor grammar. A look at the history and features of sign language shows that it can connect people just like any spoken language. If more people took the time to learn a sign language, more bridges could be built between hearing and non-hearing communities.
Welcome back, everyone. So we learned a lot of interesting facts about sign language already, right? We learned that, ASL and BSL, the British system and the American system, are actually very, very different and they can't really communicate with each other. That would be a lot of problem, right?
That's right. It is a problem, I think, in the deaf community that they want it to be a real language. So I know that they are trying to make it its own language and a universal language.
Oh, so when you say universal language, that means like a kind of language that everyone can understand?
That's right, and they can do this by making it independent from a language like English or French by taking out any of the words or letters in
Like
the
spelling,
signs.
right?
That's right, so no more spelling. Everything needs its own sign.
I think that would be much easier for everybody. You don't have to learn different systems in order to communicate with people from different countries, right?
Right.
Okay, well, let's learn more.
Okay. An eyebrow-raising fact.
What's an eyebrow-raising fact?
That means something is surprising. So when you are surprised by something,
You raise your eyebrows.
are raised. So this might be a surprising fact that we're going to learn.
Okay.
We tend to think of sign language as consisting of mostly hand motions. But the expression on one's face plays a key role too.
Actually, I think I know that because remember during coronavirus, we always have these meetings and the interpreters for sign language. And then for a while, some people were complaining that these interpreters were not wearing masks, right? But I guess that was a really important part of their job because their facial expressions is really important too, right?
That's right. I actually remember my grandmother, when she was watching things with an interpreter, would say whether the interpreter was a good interpreter or a bad interpreter, and it was mostly based on how they used their facial expressions and emotions.
Wow, okay, that's very interesting. Okay.
In ASL, for example, eyebrow position can determine the type of question being asked.
Oh, really? So the position of your eyebrows, maybe like they're up or they're down, they can determine what you're trying to say, right? And determine is our next vocabulary word, and that is a verb. So in today's sentence, to determine means to define, right? It means to define something. So for example, how you tune a guitar determines its sound, right?
That's right.
Okay, let's continue. Raised eyebrows signal a yes-no question, while eyebrows that are kept down signal a WH question. In this sense, an incorrect eyebrow position can be considered poor grammar.
So do you think, would this be poor grammar for doing this?
Well, it depends on what message you're trying to convey here, but that's very interesting.
Okay, so that brings us to another vocabulary word, and that's a verb, which is signal. Signal means to communicate with motions, actions, or sounds. So in this case, the eyebrows are communicating something, so they signal that.
That's right.
So our example sentence, the police officer signaled the car to stop.
Oh, I always see police
this.
officers do that. That's right. And maybe they will signal you to go when they move their arms, right?
That's right.
Okay.
All right, continuing on. A look at the history and features of sign language shows that it can connect people, just like any spoken language.
And it's very important, I think, to communicate and to connect with people from all over the world, right? If more people took the time to learn a sign language, more bridges could be built between hearing and non-hearing communities. So when they say more bridges should be built or could be built, does that mean like the actual bridge or?
I don't think sign language will help you to build an actual bridge, but it might help to connect you, help you to get closer with people who are using sign language in the deaf community.
And that's what they mean here. The bridge is to connect people, right? Okay, in the end, we actually have a what do you think question, okay? So let me ask you, Matt, is learning sign language something you're interested in? Why or why not?
I honestly, I was interested when I was younger and my grandparents were still around. But now I really don't have any opportunities in my daily life to interact with people using sign language, and I think because it's not a universal language, it's not that useful.
Really? Well, actually, I think I would be interested in learning sign language because I think then I get to communicate with different kind of people. You know, like I love meeting people. I love talking to, strangers or making new friends. But if I want to talk to someone who cannot speak, then I would definitely have to use sign language in order to communicate, right?
I guess so, but I think with modern technology now, we have many apps that can even speak for people, so.
I guess you're right. With the technology these days, maybe we don't have to learn in order to communicate with them. We don't know. Maybe in 5 or 10 years' time, right?
Maybe.
Okay. We learned so much about sign language today, and we learned a lot from you too because of your background. Well, that's all the time we have for today, and we'll see you guys next time.
Goodbye.
好，下一段课文是跟眉毛有关，我们就补充一下 eyebrow 就是眉毛。那么 raise eyebrows 可以表达说是挑眉、扬起眉毛的那种动作。如果一件事情让人扬起眉毛，表示它可能是令人感到质疑的或是惊讶的，所以呢 raise eyebrows 就表示令人惊讶或是引人质疑。我们这段小标题它写说 an eyebrow raising fact， 这个 eyebrow raising 字面意思是扬起眉毛的，在这边是双关语哦，因为我们接下来要讲的事实跟扬起眉毛有关，而且也会令人感到意外哦。好，我们常常认为说手语主要是由手的动作组成，但是脸上的表情也起着关键作用。像在美国手语当中，眉毛的位置可以决定问哪一种问题。扬起眉毛的话，表示是是非问句 ，yes no question。那么眉毛放下，则是表达是用 WH 疑问词开头的问句哦。好，我们来看单字 determine 这个动词表示决定、确定。那么 signal 这个字当动词，它表示示意，可能用手势啊，或者是声音去示意、发信号的那种意思。那这边一个重点，我们进入文法时间。好，我们来看这个重点是 while 做连接词的常见用法。第一种呢，我们可以表达而或是然而，就相当于 whereas， 用来说明对比或是相反的情况，像是 While Ben enjoys sci-fi movies, his girlfriend prefers romantic comedies. Ben 喜欢看科幻电影，而他女朋友比较喜欢浪漫喜剧片。第二个呢，我们可以表达虽然尽管，那个意思就跟 although 相同。例如 While the movie wasn't as good as I had expected, it was still entertaining. 尽管那部电影不如我预期的好看，但还是很有趣。第三个呢，我们可以表达在点点点期间与什么什么同时，就相当于 when。例如 It started to rain while we were waiting for the bus. 在我们等公车的时候开始下雨了。好，那么以上这些讲解，同学别走开，马上回来哦。
There is no universal sign language. In the same way as there are many spoken languages across the world, sign language differs from country to country. This is because many sign languages were developed by local deaf communities. Therefore, each sign language followed its own path of development, though some share similar features. American versus British. Although Americans and Brits can easily communicate using the English language, this is not the case with sign language. In fact, ASL shares more similarities with French Sign Language than it does with British Sign Language, BSL, and ASL signers may not understand BSL at all. An eyebrow-raising fact. We tend to think of sign language as consisting of mostly hand motions, but the expression on one's face plays a key role too. In ASL, for example, eyebrow position can determine the type of question being asked. Raised eyebrows signal a yes-no question, while eyebrows that are kept down signal a WH question. In this sense, an incorrect eyebrow position can be considered poor grammar. A look at the history and features of sign language shows that it can connect people just like any spoken language. If more people took the time to learn a sign language, more bridges could be built between hearing and non-hearing communities.
Hi everyone, I'm Stephen.
Hey, I'm Ian.
We're going to play a game called Guess the Bear, where each of us has 3 words or phrases on these cards. We're going to read 2 sentence examples for each, but instead of saying the word, we're going to say the word bear instead. You only have 1 minute to guess all 3. Let's start the timer. Go!
Oh, it's my turn. Okay.
All right, ready? This
Yeah.
is a noun. The CEO lived in a large gated bear. Number 2, the tragedy brought the bear together.
Family?
The CEO lived in a large gated bear.
Residence? House? Community?
Good.
Oh.
Okay, this is a verb. Number 1, doctors still can't bear what's wrong with her. Number 2, so far the cause of the fire hasn't been bear.
Determined.
Woo, nice. On a roll. Okay, this is a noun.
Okay.
There are no bears between the 2 systems. Number 2, she bears a striking bear to her grandmother.
Similarity.
Nice.
Resemblance. Oh,
You got it.
similarity?
You already got it.
Oh,
yeah, yours are
look
pretty
at
easy.
that. I don't know if mine were easy.
Yours are pretty easy.
I don't know. I think that's
Or maybe you're just really
a cop-out.
You're just really good
I'm
at
just
this
on
game.
point today. All right, ready?
Okay.
Let's start yours and go. Okay, so it's a phrase, 2 words. This new program bears the old one. He bears the rest of his classmates.
Exceeds past? I don't know. Next one.
Okay.
That one's hard. Okay.
It's a verb, 1 word. The traffic police bared the cars to turn. Our teacher bared for us to be quiet.
Asked? Ask?
No.
Request.
No. The traffic police bared the cars to turn.
Guided. Oh, okay, next.
No? Okay.
No.
Last one, adjective, 1 word. A thumbs up is the bear sign for okay. Bear healthcare is a hot political topic.
Common, universal?
Yes,
okay.
universal. Okay, let's go back to the first one. Phrase, 2 words. This new program bears the old one. He bears the rest of his classmates. Okay, so this last one is differ from.
Oh.
This new program differs from the old one. He differs from the rest of his classmates.
Okay, and what was the other one?
The other one is signal.
Oh.
The traffic police signaled the cars to turn. Our teacher signaled for us to be quiet.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I should have gotten that one.
Yeah,
but the
but
phrase...
they were difficult though.
Yeah,
It's just
mine
hard
were harder
to-
than yours.
Yeah, yours were a lot
I definitely
harder.
think they like you more than me because they always give me the harder ones.
I don't know who's picking me.
See you next time.